Hey guys, we are going to recap a movie called The Equalizer 3. Keep watching, because it's a great crime movie. Lorenzo Vitale, a notorious crime lord in Sicily, arrived at his vineyard accompanied by his grandson, only to discover a gruesome scene with lifeless bodies strewn all around. Upon entering the premises alone, he encountered Robert McCall, who had a firearm pointed at his head. Vitale inquired about McCall's presence, to which McCall explained he had come for something that had been wrongfully taken from him. McCall gave the three men a brief ultimatum, allowing them 9 seconds to stand down. But when they failed to comply, McCall took swift action, eliminating the 3 henchmen. As McCall departed, leaving Vitale injured and crawling, he seized a shotgun and without hesitation delivered a fatal blow to Vitale's head. As McCall walks away with a bag, the crime lord's grandson catches sight of him. McCall instructs the boy to remain in the car, but the young one disobeys, shooting McCall in the leg before fleeing. McCall manages to drive a significant distance before losing consciousness. He is eventually discovered by Officer Gio Bonucci, who transports him to the nearby town's doctor, Enzo Aricio. Enzo advises Gio to explain that McCall's injuries were the result of a fall, should anyone inquire about the situation. After a few days, McCall regains consciousness and discovers that he is now in the town of Altamonte. During his stay, he forges a bond with Enzo, who arranges accommodation for him. He also forms amicable connections with Gio and Gio's daughter, Gabby. McCall frequents the local cafe and strikes up a friendship with one of the employees, Amina. When Enzo questions McCall about whether he considers himself a good or bad person, McCall confesses his uncertainty. He grapples with haunting memories of his dear friend Susan Plummer, and these recollections weigh heavily on him. McCall can vividly recall the methodical manner in which he eliminated the men at the vineyard one by one. Subsequently, McCall reaches out to the DIA and initiates a conversation with Emma Collins. He provides her with crucial information about his discoveries at the Sicilian vineyard and recommends launching an investigation. Responding to McCall's tip, Collins, along with her partner Frank Conroy and a team, embarks on an operation, unearthing a staggering sum of 11 million euros and a substantial cache of narcotics. Later, Collins manages to track down McCall in Altamonte, establishing a line of communication with him to discuss their findings at the vineyard. In the Altamonte market, a troublemaker named Marco Quaranta is causing trouble with a fish vendor named Angelo, pressuring him to meet his demands and insisting that he comply the next time around. Marco and his sibling, Vincent, are the leaders of the Camorra, a mafia organization that instills fear in the Altamonte community. Meanwhile, Marco pays a visit to Vincent during a meeting with a couple who refuses to sign over their property for Vincent's hotel venture. In a chilling act, Marco responds by ordering the father of the wife, who is wheelchair-bound, to be tossed and left hanging from a window, serving as a gruesome warning to the other residents. Gio receives an alarming phone call informing him that his daughter Gabby left school prematurely. Upon inquiring with her teacher, he learns that one of his fellow officers took her. Anxious and frantic, Gio rushes home to find both Gabby and his wife, Chiara, in the clutches of Marco and his henchmen. The situation escalates as they menacingly threaten Gio to keep him away from their criminal affairs. During the nighttime, McCall observes people scattering in alarm as they react to the sound of a ringing bell. Angelo's shop is engulfed in flames, and both he and his wife can do nothing but watch helplessly as the flames consume their livelihood. McCall spots Marco and his henchmen casually observing the chaos, leaving him with no doubt about his next targets. Collins comes across a news report detailing a terrorist attack in Rome, which is attributed to Syrian terrorists. However, her discussions with McCall have cast doubt on the Syrian involvement, even though their drugs were discovered at the vineyard. She confides in Conroy, expressing her suspicion that there's a more extensive scheme at play. As it turns out, Vincent and Marco are strategizing to seize control of the entire coastal region with their own enterprises, and the terrorist attack was a part of their grand plan. In a harrowing turn of events, Collins becomes ensnared in the vicinity of an explosion in the city while attempting to approach her car, ultimately surviving, but requiring hospitalization. At a restaurant where Gio is enjoying a meal with his family, Marco appears with the aim of pressuring Gio into acquiring boats from Somalis. However, Marco becomes aware of McCall's intense gaze fixed upon him, prompting him to approach McCall. In no uncertain terms, McCall conveys the dire consequences that will befall Marco if he continues threatening Gio's family. McCall seizes Marco's wrist, subjecting him to excruciating pain by manipulating a nerve, which compels Marco to order his henchmen out of the restaurant. Once outside, Marco devises a plan for retaliation. However, one of his goons meets a fatal accident, as the van driver has already been dispatched by McCall. McCall dispatches the remaining goon before engaging Marco in a fierce battle. He breaks Marco's arm and forces him to fatally injure himself with a blade. Upon receiving the grim news of his brother's demise, Vincent is paid a visit by Chief Barella, who appears to have ties with the Camorra. During this encounter, Barella issues threats, prompting Vincent to retaliate by stabbing his own hand. In a shocking turn of events, Vincent commands one of his henchmen to sever Barella's hand before arranging for him to be transported to the hospital for reattachment surgery. With a deep desire for revenge, Vincent formulates a plan to strike back. Vincent, accompanied by his gang, descends upon Altomonte and launches an assault on Gio. They discharge a firearm near his ear, issuing menacing threats against him and his family until the perpetrator of his brother's murder arrives. At that moment, McCall emerges and offers himself as a target, urging Vincent to spare everyone else. However, just as Vincent is about to eliminate McCall, Enzo intervenes, firing a rifle of his own. The local residents, witnessing the confrontation, swiftly record the actions of the villains with their smartphones, prompting the wrongdoers to flee before the police can arrive. Vincent returns to his stronghold and initiates preparations for an impending attack on Altomonte the following day. To his dismay, McCall has already located them and commences a methodical elimination of Vincent's associates. Vincent is jolted awake when one of his henchmen's lifeless body crashes through the ceiling, showering him with blood. Panicked, Vincent attempts to flee, but is swiftly incapacitated by McCall. Upon regaining consciousness, Vincent discovers that McCall has administered a lethal dose of the narcotics found at the vineyard, affording him only a few minutes before his heart gives out. In a desperate attempt to escape, Vincent dashes into the street, with McCall calmly trailing behind. Tragically, Vincent is struck by a passing car, stumbling briefly before succumbing to his demise. McCall pays a visit to the hospital where Collins is recovering. During this encounter, he confesses to her the true motive behind his journey to Sicily, to recover stolen pension funds on behalf of someone he knew. Before departing, he entrusts her with the bag containing the reclaimed money. Collins travels to Boston, where the individual McCall had mentioned resides. The man and his wife are deeply moved and appreciative to learn that their stolen funds have been restored. Upon returning to her duties, Collins is presented with a small black book from McCall containing details about all his personal gatherings, accompanied by a note that reads, "Your mother would be so proud of you." As she gazes at a photograph on her desk, it becomes evident that she is Susan's daughter. McCall remains in Altomonte and participates in their celebration of the local football team's triumph.